Box office top 10 at Not Charted. Someone's
And
daughter,
straight in at Not Charted.
straight in at Not Charted
Not
at
half,
all.
mate.
Someone's daughter, someone's son.
Which I think is a really very, very good film about homelessness, because it doesn't, I mean, there's people telling their stories really well, and it's Lorna Tucker, I think, has managed to get great interviews out of them, but it doesn't just make you think this is terrible. It makes you think this is terrible, but it is solvable. And as I said before, if you Google the title of the film, it will lead you to a bunch of pages in which you can do things to actually approach the problem.
Now we got to proper numbers.
Okay.
I should say the box office top 10 is from Comscore Movies. So thank you very much to the nice people at Comscore Movies for these numbers.
Okay.
Number 88, One from the Heart, Reprise.
I love One from the Heart, and I was absolutely thrilled that Boyd Hilton of this parish sent a message saying how lovely to hear you talking about One from the Heart, because it's such a great film and he's a big fan as well. So great that it's back in cinemas. Number
14 is The Glums, the re-release.
Yeah, so this is the Les Miserables, which has been, remastered and remonitored, and but it's the same film that it was before, and
Still got Russell Crowe.
Still got but Russell Crowe. I don't see his singing. It's in cinemas.
Cherry wine.
Yeah.
Number 12 here, 17 in America, The Taste of Things.
I saw a poster for this film. I hadn't realised that it has a quote on it that says, "You feel that you can taste every frame," which is actually because so much of the film plays out around the preparation of food. It's all about the preparation of food as a kind of philosophical thing. But that phrase, "you can taste every frame," I wish I had written that.
Number 10 is All of Us Strangers.
I think All of Us Strangers is really terrific. Paul Mescal.
Yes.
Particularly good.
Andrew Scott.
And no, it's pronounced Andrew Scott. Did you know that?
Let's do that from now on.
I think it's a shame that it hasn't had the awards recognition that it should have had. I really think that it deserves to have had, because I think it's a terrific movie, and I think that it's one of those examples when people will look back in the future and go, I can't believe it's not butter. I can't believe that the film didn't get more awards than it did.
Anyone But You is at number 9.
Again, I'm afraid I haven't caught up with it because I was in Berlin, the Berlinale, getting 40 people off one U-Bahn onto another one.
Bun. Pepper's Cinema Party is at number... Don't tell me you've missed out on that at number 8, Pepper's Cinema Party.
I did read an eye-watering description of it. I wasn't entirely sure that it was a film. It sounded more like something that happened to be happening in a cinema.
Number 7 here, number 11 in the States, Mean Girl.
Again,
status quo.
As we say, astonishing that a film that was initially intended to go straight to streaming services has done as well as it has, although a colleague of mine was particularly put out by the phrase, "It's not your mum's Mean Girls," to which she replied, "Yes, it is."
Number 6 here, 26 in the States, is The Iron Claw. Callum the Hitman Sires says, I haven't been able to stop thinking about The Iron Claw since Sunday when I saw it. Recently on Questions Schmestions, someone asked for good depictions of toxic masculinity in film. And Fritz von Erich, the patriarch of the family, would be an excellent candidate. His abuse of his son's loyalties, forcing them to live out his failed dreams of glory, left me feeling angry, especially given the events that happened in the last act.
Yes.
What I found particularly moving, though, was the Von Erich brothers' love and respect for one another. I'm very close with my older brother, Rory, and the first thing I did after I left the theatre was to text him to tell him how much I appreciate and love him. Zac Efron has never been this good. We all know he's an excellent physical performer, but he was most impressive in moments of silence, wearing his conflict in repressed micro-expressions.
Very good phrase.
Thank you, Callum.
I mean, the only thing I would say is I think Efron has been really terrific in a number of films. I think he's great in this. I think it is a really, really good performance, but I have always liked Efron.
Into the top 5 from Comscore Movies. Number 5 is Wonka. Still there, and 5 in the States.
11th week. So we are going to be in a situation fairly shortly in which Timothée Chalamet is in the top 10 twice, because Dune Part 2 will almost certainly go to number 1, and Wonka is not dropping. So I think it's going to be a Timothée Chalamet double bill in the top 10.
Denis Villeneuve and Hans Zimmer will be on the show. And
you've done the interview already?
Yes, I've done the interview. And what there wasn't time to say, because it's a really nice conversation, I think. The one thing that I wanted to ask, but we kind of ran out of time, was, is there a tiny part of you, Denis, that is slightly annoyed that Wonka came out before Dune 2, so that when Timothée turns up for the first time, I go, oh, it's Wonka. I saw him with an ice cream and a bar of chocolate, singing and dancing.
Had they shot Dune Part 2 before Wonka?
I don't know. But Wonka came out. Obviously, originally Dune 2 was going to be out before Wonka.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was...
Anyway. So that's a very good thing. So Wonka's at 5. Argyle is at 4, 3 in America.
Yeah, but so in its third week, it's at number 4, which means that absolute welter of negative emails the first week. Remember, I quite liked it. I thought it was the most fun Matthew Vaughn film since Kick-Ass. And then the very first week, there was nothing but negative emails. And I mean really negative. People absolutely hated it. But it has found its audience. It is at number 4 in its third week, which means it's held on in the top 5. Good for it.
And at number 3 in the UK, number 2 in America, Madame Web. Just an email here from Steve Howe, but not the 76-year-old guitarist from Yes. Dear Sony and so far, please, please, please make Mark watch Madame Web. I want to hear a jolly good rant. Thanks in advance, Steve Howe.
So, Madame Web, 4th film in the Sony Spider-Man universe, following on from the Venom films and Morbius. Directed, co-written by S.J. Clarkson, making a feature debut. Other writers include the writing pair behind Morbius. Dakota Johnson is Cassie Webb, a paramedic whose mother, Constance, died while seeking a magical spider in the jungles of Peru. I'm not making this up. Now she's saving lives. One day she has a near-death experience that unlocks hidden powers. Her hidden powers are she can see the near future.
Oh.
Here's a clip.
Cassie, I need you at the triage.
Wait, O'Neill, will you let me drive?
What are you talking about?
I don't know, I just have a weird feeling.
Look, you had a bad experience on the job. Don't let it mess with your head.
Cassie, come on!
So she foresaw something, but can she change it? So after an incident happens with a bird, it turns out that she can possibly change the future as long as she acts fast enough. Meanwhile, Ezekiel, played by Tahar Rahim, is haunted by visions of a group of women who are bringing about his demise. He knows this is happening in the future, but using high-tech wizardry, he gets pictures of their faces, takes them back to what they would look like now, because he knows what they look like in the future, but he knows what they look like now, and they're just teenagers, played by Sydney Sweeney, who was great in reality, Celeste O'Connor, Isabel Merced. They are going to become killers who will bring about his demise. So therefore he tracks them down using this high-tech stuff at a point where all their paths cross. And, so origin story. Sounds like fun because, interesting ideas to people in there that I like. Isn't fun at all. Apparently costs somewhere between $80 and $100 million. That is 10 times as much as Godzilla -1 cost. And yet this looks like, if you showed the two films and said, which one of these cost $100 million, which one of these cost 10, you'd have it the other way round. Because to say that the visuals are shonky is to understate the level of, wow, is that really up there on the screen that was considered to be passable at the point that it left the effects houses. The storytelling is on a par with Morbius. It's absolutely somewhere between pathetic and perfunctory. I mean, largely perfunctory, but just occasionally you just go, oh, absolutely not. There are some comic book movies which have got this kind of thing about they sort of self-referentially refer to themselves and, kind of make fun of the source or make jokes about the source and sort of nods and winks and all that kind of stuff. This just seems careless in the sense that it looks like nobody who made it could care less about what they were doing. And I'm sure that's not true. I'm absolutely certain that that whilst they were making it, the people who were making it wanted to make something good. And that email said, what I want is a good rant. I mean, I'm afraid you're not going to get one because it's just disappointing to see something that lands so lamely. I mean, there's this one scene in it in which sort of Cassie's figured out that her heritage, it's the thing back in Peru. So she goes to Peru, which apparently is the size of a postage stamp because she arrives in Peru and literally standing there is the person that she's looking for. Hello.
That's reassuring.
I'm in Peru. I mean, you're more likely to find Paddington Bear. The action sequences are just a bunch of CG visuals, some of which look, to say they were televisual, television now looks so fabulous. Many of them just kind of look very computer gamey. The dialogue is terrible. I'm not very smart, but I felt that my intelligence was being insulted by by some of it. And the whole thing is a setup for something which I'm pretty certain we're never going to see. So it's like a setup for something that we didn't need to, we're not going to see the next one, so we didn't need to see it this time. And you just end up thinking, okay, well, it's the film which makes the joke. I mean, it's about clairvoyance, and, if only Dakota Johnson had been clairvoyant enough to see how this was going to work out, then perhaps she could have, gone back in time and not made it. It's not, there's nothing worth ranting about it. It's just very, very poor. I mean, very, very shoddy and messy and foolish and uninteresting. And the worst thing about it is that you keep wanting it to get good. And, Dakota Johnson, you keep wanting it to be good, and then it's just not.
Number 2 is Migration,
which is kind of fun, but with the scary bits.
And number 1 here and number 1 in America is Bob Marley, One Love. Joe from Nottingham wanted to write in, tell you about my recent cinema experience. Myself, my partner and her father, both of whom are reggae enthusiasts, booked to see One Love at the Broadway Cinema in Nottingham.
Okay.
It was an absolutely joyful event for a couple of reasons. Firstly, whenever Lashana Lynch / Rita Marley was making legitimate or truthful arguments to her on-screen husband, a woman sat nearby would express various audible gestures such as, yep, that's right. Normally I'd consider any form of chatter in the cinema as a crime, but I just found her engagement with the on-screen drama so endearing and charming. Secondly, when the final titles came up on screen at the end, some in the audience couldn't help themselves by applauding the film. When the credits rolled, blaring One Love, everyone sang along, including us. As people got up to leave, there was literal dancing and singing in the aisles. Amongst friends and strangers, it was one of the most joyful and memorable cinema experiences I've had in a long time.
Good. I mean, as I said, I thought that I couldn't understand why critics were getting off their bike about the film so much when it's perfectly likable. I mean, it is very, very hagiographic, but hey.
Yes, but hey. Yes, I think I seem to remember you did think it was disappointing.
Well, it's at the soft end of these things because it takes all the rough edges off the story, and and I think that it takes all the contradictions out of the character, and it only ever raises the there's the whole thing about I did take care of the kids, and I did, and then it's like, okay, fine, that's out of the way. But on the other hand, the performances are fun and the music is great. And actually, I think the way in which they've integrated the spoken word and the music works rather well. It's just a film that doesn't have any of the real contradictions that its subject did, and which made its subject more interesting.
Number 1 here and number 1 in the States is quite some achievement.